going to take a look at this Daniel Penny story, which has been one of the main stories in the news for quite a few weeks now, since the case came to trial. There's two clear factions. I mean, many would say, why did it come to trial in the first place? The guy was stepping in, defending the vulnerable people on the train when it was going off. And others will say there's a racial aspect and it's just another black man killed by a white so-called racist. I don't know. You could say it's a simple thing to figure out on one hand. Vulnerable people, men, women and children. Scary situation for many who didn't feel they was in a position to defend themselves. A black dude, Latin dude from what I understand, and Daniel Penny came to the rescue of the vulnerable, attempted to de-escalate the situation and restrained the guy at the center of the whole crazy incident. Sadly, it ended badly. And someone's life was lost. Following that now, and the commotion that kicked off in the community, it went to court. So this is what has caused a lot of the say discontent on both sides. The sides that feel the guy's a hero should never be brought to trial, and the other side that feel he's a racist vigilante and intentionally took this guy's life. One thing I would ask though, and I often wonder, is if you have incidents going off every day of the week with black people and people of all cultures, why is it that it takes a white person to be involved with a black person losing their life for BLM for it to galvanize them and for them to be at the front of the picture with all of their activism, force, and the taking up all the oxygen in the media limelight, and drawing the conclusion of racism everywhere, in every aspect of the whole thing. When black people lose their lives on a daily and they don't follow these stories, there's things that are happening all the time and you don't hear a squeak in the media. You don't see the BLM chapters marching or protesting or being interviewed about these other stories. It takes one case of a white person involved in a black person losing their life, and then I guess it's ticks enough boxes for BLM to feel it's worthy of being represented. In any case, I'm going to kind of look at some of these clips in the reverse order, because we know that the jury is finding it difficult to reach a verdict, and the judge took off the main charge, which some say is unusual and controversial. I kind of think maybe they wanted to give them a way out so that they can sort of come up with a verdict that will satisfy those who feel the guy committed a crime and he should feel the force of the law for that. And for those who feel he was a hero, he stepped in where others feared to tread and attempted to defuse and de-escalate the situation. And sadly, it went badly wrong. I mean, do people want to live in a society where when things are going off and the vulnerable feel they can't protect themselves, law enforcement aren't around, bystanders just look on and do nothing? Because I think that was the question. If people are going to be fearful of being prosecuted, if they stepped into something, they will step aside and it will just be every man and woman for themselves. It should be a sad space to inhabit. Yeah, without any further ado, we'll look at this interview done after the verdict with Daniel Penny. And I think this is the first time he spoke out since the verdict was read.
The guilt I would have felt if someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from.
I mean, I could be wrong, but he comes across as a stoic, fairly humble guy. Can't really detect any kind of arrogance. Even the comments that were made about how he appeared during the court case.
From getting hurt or killed.
Daniel Penny exclusively to Fox for the first time since being cleared of all charges.
This, as his defense team tells us, they're considering filing their own lawsuit for malicious persecution. Good for them.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk to Daniel Penny's attorney. Stephen Razor joins us right now. Stephen, congratulations. Good morning to you.
Thing is, it's not over yet because you have the civil suit that the father of the dead guy is going to be bringing.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you as well.
So we saw you yesterday. We were running the video of you and Danny and another attorney at the Stone Street Tavern after his acquittal. I know you've got the attorney-client privilege, but tell us what you guys were talking about. I mean, is there one thing that he said to you that you thought, wow, that's cool?
The relief he felt, and that other attorney, by the way, is Thomas Kniff, partner Razor and Kniff. And, Danny, for us, it became more than just a case, right? So we're trying to take care of Danny and make sure that he's treated fairly in a system that was geared to prosecute him maliciously. And
you see, BLM are coming out and they're saying that the case was stacked and the jury are racist. And actually, I heard that Jordan Neely's dad erupted when the verdict was read, and somebody said something, and he said, "Do you want to lose your life?" I mean, there's been threats and sort of coded calls to riot, so it's really a unhealthy situation.
Manner which was not supported by the evidence, and there was motivations at play here. So Danny's saying that he's relieved for here because the amount of stress that he's been under for the past year and a half has been tremendous.
Stephen, you're correct. It was a malicious.
Unimaginable.
I got to ask you about this lawsuit that y'all may go against him with. Because
let's just have a little bit, a little more of a look of
through all of
this.
Judge Janine's it's pretty unbelievable. What was your take on him?
Well, first of all,
her impression of him.
Let me just say one thing about those people who are out there yelling for black vigilantism. I want to know, where is Alvin Bragg? Where is Letitia James? These prosecutors, when you've got a situation, they're literally threatening to kill someone, they're nowhere to be found. It's all about ideology. It's not about reality. And then when you have the women on The View who come out and say, you know, this is wrong and that's wrong, and, you know, this is murder. Are you kidding me? The laws in New York are very clear. Justification is allowed. If you are confronted with deadly physical force, you can then use deadly physical force, although he did not. He did not use physical force. What he did was he was in a position to see that everyone was frozen on that subway car. There was a threat to kill, a man capable of imminent deadly physical force. He made the decision when he took out those earbuds and he told the guy to hold his phone that he was going to help other people. He didn't say, let me go to another car or let me just get off the subway as soon as it stops. He held him down until the police came. The stress, and all of the other things that were going on in his body. This guy that you're looking at right now, Danny Penny, is one of the most decent human beings that I have met in my life. He wants no praise. He wants no one to consider him a hero. He was willing to go through 1,000 days of these trials and these attacks.
So it seems.
Live with himself if he didn't stand up for the women and the children on that subway car. And by the way...
So, that's Judge Janine's take of the type of guy she found Daniel Penny to be. And to be honest, from the little coverage I've seen of him in the press, it doesn't come across as someone who's arrogant or bullyish or anything like that. Now, this is what BLM had to say.
Alan Hesse, cosmetic dentist and owners of Smart White. And we've worked.
So do you not blame Jordan Neely at all? I mean, for what he did? He deserves no blame from your perspective, right?
Did you hear the witness testimony?
I'm asking you a question.
Or are you cherry-picking the ones?
I'm asking you a question. Do you blame Jordan Neely at all for his conduct?
If Jordan Neely was a white man, we'd be saying it was an opioid crisis. He was hungry. He was ill. He had a muffin in his pocket.
I wouldn't be if there were other. What about the witnesses? Let's play again, just so we're clear on the race.
Play Eddie Gibson, who begged Daniel Neely to stop.
Oh, again, but he stayed.
Look, this ain't an easy subject to look at. Whichever way you look at it. It's tragic, controversial, and troublesome, and ain't going to go away anytime soon, even though there's been a court verdict. Although some of the perspective of BLM, I don't know if it stacks up.
He stayed there throughout the incident.
Play the ones that fit the narrative.
But what's the narrative? There's black women who were on the subway. It was mostly people of color on the subway.
Sure was.
A white man during cross-examination who said he was afraid of Daniel Penny. Poured water onto his head and said that he was afraid. He was a white man.
Yeah, okay. So, and
what about the Latino man who was holding his arms?
I'm not the one identifying everyone by race. You are. You're the one who keeps telling. Why? Why do you have to? There was nothing in this case.
When you look at the FBI, when you look at when hate crimes happen, when you look at when injustice happen to black people,
but let's agree.
We don't get justice.
Let's agree to some. Look, I'm going to be doing a segment later this week on a missing black woman who has not been getting nearly enough attention.
Send it to me and I'll share the.
No, but.
Now, that's the point I was making earlier on. There's a lot of these terrible incidents and stories happening. We don't hear about them until it's something that's clearly could be labeled as racism, or as far as the activists are concerned.
By the media, because I understand that, and to that degree,
and the
you have a fair
to
point about the way sometimes the media and the justice system, but not in this case. This case, even the prosecutors conceded Daniel Penny had every right to go hands-on, and the question became, okay, when should he have stopped? I understand that.
The time frame on that
right.
from the DA's office was after 30 seconds. Can you not concede that Daniel Penny was a trained killer? Did he not have his gray belt? United States Marine Corps is an assassin?
Sure, but
he knew.
Let me so every Marine is a trained
because
assassin.
Actually, black Marines and white Marines have reached. He told us he went too far.
But going too far is different from criminal.
Let me break it down. A chokehold, a blood chokehold, which he did. You're only supposed to hold someone in that move for 8 to 13 seconds. Yeah. You're not supposed to do it longer than 2 minutes. Why did Daniel?
Why label it a blood chokehold? I've never heard that terminology before.
Penny, when the train was completely clear, everyone was on the platform. Why did he hold it for nearly 6 minutes?
Because he was scared.
He was a Marine is scared of a crack of someone he labeled as a crackhead.
Again, is it not possible that Daniel Penny, when he's doing this on the spot, stepping up to help people of many different races, moves in and doesn't have a clock with him to decide when he should stop and when he shouldn't, which is why, in the end, the jury acquitted, right?
No, actually, Daniel Penny was trained very well by the United States Corps, and he knew what the signs were. He knew when Jordan's body was slacking. He knew that Jordan was going to die. Why didn't you show his face, Dan?
So you're telling me this guy jumped in to defuse the situation, and along with the other black dude and the Latin dude and anyone else who assisted, tried to restrain Jordan Neely, and you're saying this one particular guy intended for him to lose his life? Strange.
A good man. When he laughed and when the first response, I'm critical of the police. We know this, right? NYPD tried to save his life. While they were doing chest compressions, Daniel Penny laughed and said chest compression. A good person, a hero. One last thing. Why did he never ask about the well-being in that police department about Jordan Neely?
So you're asking, he was a hero. You're asking a lot of questions that are sort of rhetorical questions, right? But the ultimate question is, why did the jury acquit? Is it because they're racist?
America is inherently biased.
So the jury is racist.
Have you seen?
I'm asking you a question. No, don't change the subject. Is it because the jury is racist?
Yes.
Okay.
The jurors.
Even the black person on the jury.
Would you like to hear something?
Yeah.
I believe that even black people can be anti-black. People are predeceived to see black people as a threat and as a victim because people called in. You heard the voice recordings when they called 911. Jordan Neely was in a chokehold for over 4 minutes, turning purple, which black people do in fact do that, and people still saw him as a harm. Even when his body went limp, he was still viewed as a criminal. So I'm sorry if I'm going to defend the poor. Why does no one talk about when Jordan Neely came on asking for water and being thirsty? Why does no one talk about...
Because that's not what happened right here. What happened right here, the reason he was held was not because he was asking for water. It's because he was scaring the heck out of everyone on the subway, which apparently he's done before.
Dan, anyone...
From what I understand, he threatened to kill people.
Who has rode the New York City subway has encountered mentally ill people. Why are we not having this conversation? And we don't kill them.
But you know what?
We offer help or we get out of the way.
But more people wish people would step up more and help and stop people from doing it.
So are you giving a license to vigilantism? Are you saying that we should kill
vigilante.
Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying is it's very unfortunate. I think Daniel Penny would say it is really unfortunate that he died.
Why didn't he care when he was at the precinct? He showed no remorse.
Because he was defending what he did.
He lied in that defense, too. Do you know he told people? He told the police, who people love, that people respect the police's opinion, right? People respect what they do. People respect that honor. He lied in the 5th precinct. How can anything he do? Can we just stop calling him a hero? Can we do that?
No, I can't. I actually do view. I do view what he did as heroic. Thanks for watching. Go to George.
I heard that he lied 5 times. Now it's sort of been remixed to it was the 5th precinct and he lied probably once. There's so much Chinese whispers and conversion going on with this story that it's really need to sprinkle salt around some of the responses.
House Gardens is one of the most exciting projects Manchester has ever seen. Located in the
outcome.
Well, a jury found Daniel Penny. for the chokehold death of Jordan Neely.
The other story everybody's talking about in New York City. Well, the divisive trial lasted more than 6 weeks, but the legal trouble for Daniel Penny not over just yet. Briella Tomasetti in Soho this morning. What's going on?
Rosanna and Kirk, good morning to both of you. Yeah, after 5 days of deliberations, the jury returning a not guilty verdict on that second count of criminally negligent homicide. Remember, though, the court dismissed the first count of second-degree manslaughter after the jury was deadlocked and could not reach a decision. The defense team argued throughout the trial that Daniel Penny was justified in his restraint of Jordan Neely, which happened near the subway station where we're standing right now. Prosecutors, though, ultimately failed to convince jurors that Penny was reckless or negligent in that chokehold. He walked out of a Lower Manhattan courthouse of Fremont after he was acquitted in the subway chokehold case that left the city divided and sparked 18 months of public outcry. A 12-member jury who started deliberating last Tuesday found Penny not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. The judge dismissed the more serious manslaughter charge on Friday after jurors told the court they could not reach a verdict.
Daniel, can you tell me how you're feeling about this right now?
It feels great. It really does.
We caught up with Penny and his attorneys who were celebrating at Stone Street Tavern after that not guilty came down. Although the 6-year-old Marine veteran declined to speak, his lawyer, Thomas Kenneth, had this to say.
It's 18 months of weight on everybody's shoulders. Most importantly, Danny's, walking around with the weight of this indictment on him.
Penny was accused of killing 30-year-old Jordan Neely in a Manhattan subway car last May.
Sad.
He was captured on video putting
Tragic.
Neely, a homeless street performer with mental health issues, in a chokehold after witnesses say he suffered a mental breakdown and threatened to harm others on board the train. Neely lost consciousness during the struggle and later died. The New York City Medical Examiner's Office ruled his death a homicide caused by compression of the neck. But a pathologist hired by Penny's defense team testified that Neely died from a combination of factors, including schizophrenia, synthetic marijuana, and sickle cell trait.
Jordan Neely was choked to death by someone who didn't care people was telling him to stop.
As Jordan Neely's family spoke outside the courthouse, protests turned violent, with one person being arrested. Demonstrators also took to Washington Square Park, demanding that Penny be held accountable. Neely's father, Andre Zachary, filed a civil lawsuit against Penny last week, accusing the Marine veteran of negligence, assault, and battery.
I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts.
Dante Mills says he has optimism that the Neely...
Well, there you have it. Very tragic. I'll give you an example of something that happened back in the summer in the UK. It wasn't turned into a racial thing, which, sadly, on a lot of these stories, that's exactly what happened. And this guy went on the rampage and eventually took the life of a 14-year-old school kid, leaving his house on the way to school. He home invaded other people in the neighborhood's house, badly injured a couple and some other people. And it was a white dude who, I don't know if he was going through a mental spell or something definitely wasn't right with him. So it made headline news, although it wasn't told as a racial incident.
A close-knit community in Hainault in north-east London was at 10 to 7 yesterday morning when neighbours reported hearing desperate and blood-curdling screams from Lang Close behind me. It transpired that a man driving a van had come round the corner at heavy speed, crashed into a pedestrian before crashing into a house. Neighbours said that they went to go and check on the man who had crashed, but he got out carrying a 2-foot ornamental sword, which he then used to attack a schoolboy, 14 years old, leaving his home to head for his day at school. Neighbours described seeing the young boy sitting in a 2-foot pool of blood as he lay on the floor, while officers and police who arrived just 12 minutes after they were first called at 6:54 a.m. desperately tried to revive him. Sadly, there was nothing they could do.
When I left the house, I locked up and as soon as I turned over, he approached me, and he was asking if, he was basically saying, where are we? What's the address?
She got lucky.
Once I told the address, he sort of moved closer towards me. He put his foot on my foot, so I back off, and then that's when he like drew out the sword.
See, situations like that, you'd want someone to step in if there was somebody willing to risk themselves and calm something like that down, because it's just, it's tragic.
And it was arm's length. It was honestly petrifying.
My goodness.
I just ran. Once, as soon as I put the phone down, when I looked up, I saw my neighbour, the young boy, coming out of his house to go to school. So at first, my instinct was to just shout and wave at him, which is what me and another neighbour did. But because he had just put his headphones on, I don't think he heard either of us. And yeah, and then it was sort of a moment where we just went from shouting to just blankness, you know, just felt empty. One's life just got taken right from us.
The man, who was 36 and fled with the sword still in hand, down towards a garden area with some garages where he climbed atop them, still with a rabble of police officers in pursuit. It was at that point officers shouted at residents on the nearby Thurlow Gardens to lock their doors to make sure the man, who had earlier issued crazed shouts of "Do you believe in God?" could not get through their back doors.
See, this dude was going through some kind of a mental something or other, and he was not in a normal state and threatening violence.
Drop the sword! Oi! He's going in people's gardens, man. Lock your doors!
See, one of the differences here, he didn't lose his life. No one was able to step in and prevent him from doing so much damage. And sadly, there were victims in this case. They weren't able to prevent the guy from doing his worst.
Everyone lock your doors!
The man charged along the garden area, and it's understood from talking to neighbours and locals on Thurlow Gardens he may have tried to climb over somebody's gate to get onto their garage, where he was then met with a wall of police officers who shot him with two 50,000-volt tasers in footage captured by a doorbell camera.
Totally chaotic. See, in those type of scenarios, I don't know anyone, even the most trained, in such a high and emotional state, who's going to be able to think straight and not just react. That's if you ain't frozen with fear.
Police first addressed the incident at around 11 a.m. yesterday, where they said that many people, 5 people in fact, including 2 police officers, have been injured in the rampage. This morning we learnt that some of the injuries to those cops are very serious indeed. One of them, Mark Rowley said, almost had her hand cut. It was a testament to how police run towards danger instead of running away.
We were on the ground in 12 minutes and he was...
They were quick to act. So, you see, what do people do in those situations? And if it gets to a point where people are in so much fear of being implicated, then that they might become the person being charged with an offence. So they'll just leave people to fate. Excuse me, when they'd ordinarily step in. It would be a sad state of affairs. all in all, it's a tragic story. There are many that are glad that he didn't end up getting sentenced, and many who are feeling the opposite way. And I just hope it doesn't escalate to any more sadness and negativity. Well, on that note, I'll say be good if you can. Try and be safe and be creative. You've been here with myself, Owen Uedier, at Corner Speak. We out.